Learn from a fire without burning your house. That is the only sane way to approach Otto Weininger. As a historical bonfire, hot, visible, and capable of lighting the sky, whose flames can also scorch character, judgment, and community if handled carelessly. You do not read to imitate, you read to interrogate. You do not harvest ideology, you harvest method, stamina, and the few transferable observations about discipline and character that survive hard scrutiny. Everything else, his bigoted false generalizations, belongs in the ash heap with a firm stated no. Your task is intellectual due diligence. Separate signal from poison. Extract what strengthens responsibility. Discard what targets human dignity. You are not platforming a worldview. You are practicing a craft. How to take instruction from flawed sources without becoming their echo. The rule that governs the whole exercise is non-negotiable. Zero tolerance for prejudice. No quoting or amplifying the hate. No laundering slurs as provocation. Handle the material like hazardous waste. Gloves on, protocols tight, disposal documented, and you can leave the archive stronger, clearer, and harder to recruit into any online radicalization funnel that trades shame and grievance for obedience. You approach a thinker like Otto Weininger for the same reason an engineer studies a failed bridge, not to replicate the collapse, but to learn the stresses, shortcuts, and beautiful ideas misapplied that made the failure dramatic. There is intellectual power in the wreckage. Weininger wrote with ferocious intensity about character, will, duty, and concentration. Those themes matter. They can sharpen a reader's spine if, and only if, you build a boundary that refuses the bigotry fused to them. The first move is clarity about aim. You are not looking for a hero to worship or an enemy to hate. You are auditing a source to salvage what is testable and universal while discarding what is parochial and cruel. That aim requires a boundary line you state to yourself before you start. Any claim that essentializes groups, that denies moral equality, or that invites contempt for persons is out of court. Not contested, rejected. Why not simply ignore him altogether? Because the internet does not. Because fragments circulate without context, wrapped in aesthetics that flatter disaffected readers into thinking contempt is a form of wisdom. Because strength and discipline are genuine needs, and bad actors who combine them with prejudice can recruit those needs for their purposes. If you do not practice separating the two, you risk taking both or rejecting both. The wiser route is disaggregation. Split the discussion of self-command from the smear of entire peoples. Keep the former under review and burn the latter without ceremony. In doing so, you train a faculty more valuable than any single author. The capacity to hold a text to standards higher than style. To recognize when rhetoric seduces you into carrying premises you would never sign under your own name. Peril enters where readers confuse intensity with truth. A sentence can feel crisp, severe, and awakening while being false in content and corrupt in tone. Your boundary line protects you from that confusion. You do not accept a claim because it stings. You do not reject a claim because it came from a tainted pen. You test claims by universality and particularity. Universality asks, could this observation about discipline or conscience apply to any human capable of responsibility, regardless of sex, ethnicity, religion? Particularity asks, does this claim rest on a caricature or on evidence that survives outside the author's circle of resentment? Bigotry fails both tests. It asserts universals about groups from idiosyncratic grievances and elevates personal disgust into metaphysics. Discipline, by contrast, often passes. Sleep, attention, promise-keeping, truth-telling. These are human in scope and falsifiable in practice. To keep the peril contained, adopt the stance of a forensic reader. You are collecting fingerprints of usefulness in a crime scene, not moving into the house. You document what you're extracting how you checked it, and where it will live in your code of life. You also document what you refuse and why, so you do not later launder it as context. This discipline matters because online radicalization thrives on vagueness. Screenshots of aphorisms presented as profound, quotes divorced from their targets, threads that make sneers look like philosophy. Your clarity deprives those funnels of food. You leave the live wire intact, insulated by principle. Human dignity is not up for barter. Strength that requires contempt is weakness in disguise. And any system that begs you to despise to feel alive is selling you a cage. The core craft is separation. You take a mixed bundle, notes on discipline and courage lashed together with sweeping, hateful generalizations, and you split the chords. Start by listing discrete claims in neutral language without the author's rhetoric. Focused attention increases the probability of excellent work. Promises are the spine of character. Self-command in sexuality protects long-term projects. Now test them. Are they agent-centered rather than group essentialist? Can they be applied, falsified, and improved without reference to birth categories? Do they generalize across cultures and eras where human capacity and vice are recognizably the same? If yes, you have a candidate for salvage, a practice to trial, a principle to adopt, a standard to hold. None of this requires you to praise a source or to import their metaphysics. It requires you to honor reality wherever you find it, while refusing to let reality be narrowed by malice. Then list the disqualifying moves. Essentialism. Attributes stapled to whole groups as if biology or ancestry wrote fate. Moral arithmetic that grants dignity to some and denies it to others. Conspiracy structures that explain away counterexamples by redefining them as exceptions that prove the rule. These moves are red flags because they short-circuit truth-seeking and invite cruelty. You do not steelman bigotry. You mark it, drop it, and state why. It fails universality. It collapses under evidence. It degrades the moral equality that any decent framework requires. Refusal is part of separation. You are not required to balance a demeaning claim with sympathy. You are required to keep your own standards. With the piles sorted, practice principle extraction. Translate the salvageable into your own words and place them under independent warrant. Multiple sources, lived test, peer challenge. Conserve attention becomes a rule you can defend with neuroscience, craftsmanship traditions, and your own throughput, not with a thinker's aura, keep promises or renegotiate early. Is secured by ethics and effectiveness, not by a paragraph that shares space with prejudice. You retain what is true because it is true, portable, clean, and disconnected from the rhetoric that first carried it to your eyes. Next, practice context disinfection. Do not bring the source's aura into your life. Do not decorate your workspace with their portrait, name drop them to shock, or use their severe tone as a proxy for your own courage. That theater is how ideologies recruit. Let the ideas stand on independent legs. Let the name fall away. If someone asks where you learn to block notifications or tell uncomfortable truths kindly, you can answer from a mix of craft manuals, mentors, and hard knocks. You owe no homage to a writer whose other pages you would never read aloud to people you respect. Finally, distinguish ascetic wisdom from contempt. Some readers confuse the refusal of indulgence with the refusal of humanity. You can value restraint, sobriety, and stamina without attacking whole populations. You can praise quiet strength without performing disgust. Make that distinction explicit in your notes. This practice strengthens me. That judgment diminishes others. I take the practice, reject the judgment. State it so you can hear yourself later when styled quotes try to slide standards past your guard. Separation is not just intellectual, it is moral hygiene. Salvage practices, scrap prejudice. Keep your hands clean, Treat a problematic author like lab material. You write a protocol and you follow it. Step 1 is source criticism. Identify the publication context, the author's biography insofar as it bears on bias, and the reception history from credible scholars who have no interest in sanitizing hate. You are building a map. Where is the observed useful terrain? Where are the minefields? Step 2 is genre awareness. Aphorism, polemic, and diary are not neutral vessels. Short, sharp forms can compress wisdom and smuggle vice. Recognize that style can drug judgment. You neutralize the drug by paraphrasing into plain prose and checking whether anything remains once the aesthetic sugar dissolves. Step 3 is claim typing. Separate descriptive from normative claims. Descriptive: what the author says is. Normative: what the author says ought to be. Descriptive claims about discipline or attention can be tested against experience and science. Normative claims that rank human worth by birth are excluded on contact. They violate a bedrock axiom, equal moral standing, and are not up for debate. Draw a bold line on your page. Above it, the few candidate observations about character that might train you. Below it, the unarguable trash. The physical act of drawing the line helps your mind keep the bins apart. Step 4 is triangulation. Any practice you think worth saving must survive outside the author's orbit. Cross-check with traditions that value human dignity, stoic duty, virtue ethics, craftsmanship law, modern psychology, and with your own small experiments. If focused work sprints improve output, you can keep them with confidence, tethered to evidence rather than to a persona. If truth-telling as a default repairs relationships, you keep it because it works and because it aligns with ethics, not because a polemicist barked it at you. Step 5 is contamination control. Never quote or circulate the author's bigotry. Do not post excerpts for discussion. Do not test whether friends are brave enough to stomach it. This is not prudery. It is responsible handling. You are not a pipeline for harm. If you must reference the prejudice to explain your rejection, do so in your own summary language, accurate, plain, and brief. Then pivot to the principle you are carrying forward from clean sources. Step 6 is audit and disclosure. Write, in your own words, what you took and what you refused, along with the reasons and the independent warrants. This written audit prevents later self-deception and inoculates you against stylized nostalgia that can creep in when life gets hard and severe. Rhetoric sounds attractive. Share the audit only with people who ask how you derived your current practices, never as a recruiting pitch for edgy reading. The last step is time-boxed engagement. You do not live with the material. Set a window, complete the protocol, close the book, and move your reading time to sources that strengthen you without moral costs. This is the part many skip and where contamination creeps in. Immersion changes affection. Affection dulls judgment. You cannot loiter in rooms soaked in contempt and expect to leave without some of it on your coat. Finish the audit, clean your hands, and go build a library that doesn't ask you to trade decency for focus. If you follow this workflow, you gain more than a handful of practices. You gain resistance to styled rhetoric, to grievance salesmen, to the flattening fun of group contempt. You also gain humility, the knowledge that strength without respect is rot, and that any program for self-command that requires you to step on someone's neck is weakness pretending to be steel. Due diligence guards both your intellect and your conscience. Keep it formal, keep it written, keep it brief. Then leave the lab and live. Online radicalization rarely begins with a manifesto. It begins with fragments, a sharp sentence that feels bracing, a meme that flatters your fatigue, a clip that confirms your suspicion that the world is run by frauds. Algorithms notice your linger time and feed you more of the same. Soon, discipline tips into disdain, critique blurs into contempt, and a community forms around the relief of having villains to blame. Weininger's severe tone makes for perfect fragment bait. It offers the chemistry of certainty to readers aching for clarity, then smuggles prejudice under that certainty's cover. Starving this machine requires 3 moves. First, context discipline. Never share or save a sentence because it stung. Ask who wrote it, in what project, with what agenda, and what claims ride silently in its wake. If you cannot answer, you do not pass it on. Your attention is a valve. Keep it closed to orphaned fragments. Second, counter-canon. For every severe voice you audit, read 3 who combine rigor with respect. Scientists who link effort to evidence. Ethicists who join courage with equality. Artisans who teach focus without contempt. Saturate your feed with models that train the same virtues without the vice. Algorithms can be bent toward sanity if you program them on purpose. Third, community hygiene. Groups that bond on grievance alone will eventually demand that you prove membership by hating. Exit early. Choose rooms where standards are high and slurs are absent, where disagreement is about methods and trade-offs, not about the worth of persons. A clean shop isn't soft. It's strong enough to enforce a zero-tolerance line without theatrics. Make that your normal. When a newcomer offers a spicy quote from a tainted source, you don't pounce. You model the protocol. We don't platform that here. If you want to discuss attention or duty, here are better texts that teach it. Notice how radicalization also exploits identity hunger. It offers belonging through opposition. We are the clear-eyed. They are the weak. The antidote is production identity, belonging through what you build, fix, and keep. When your hours leave artifacts, software that works, students who grow, families who trust, you become harder to recruit into any choir of scorn. The fragment loses its grip because you have skin in reality, not in theatre. This is not a call to disengage from politics or culture. It is a call to weigh your soul toward making over marinating in resentment. Another trap is the edgy intellectual persona, liking difficult thinkers for the aura of danger. That costume is easy to buy and impossible to wear without cost. Resist it by private mastery. Do the hard reading without public peacocking. Keep your notes, keep your distance, keep your standards. If someone pushes you to perform your toughness by quoting ugliness, decline. Strength doesn't require me to repeat harm. It's a full sentence. It ends the dare. Finally, remember that radicalization thrives on false urgency. If you don't retweet this truth right now, you're part of the problem. Your answer is time-slow decisions are stronger decisions. A claim worth remodeling your life around can survive a weekend while you check sources, talk to someone you trust, and look for counter-evidence. In that pause, the fragment loses its magic and becomes what it always was. Words without a warranty. You are not obligated to be a node in someone else's amplification network. Your obligation is to keep your house from burning while you learn what fire can do. If you're going to extract anything from a hazardous archive, convert it immediately into a code of practice anchored in clean reasons and corroborated by decent sources. Otherwise, salvage remains vapor and aura creeps back in. Your code is compact, testable, and public-facing if asked. It covers conduct toward yourself and toward others, because both matter for staying out of the swamp. For the self, attention is conserved. Promises are either kept or renegotiated early. Speech is truthful without cruelty. Appetite serves purpose rather than hijacking it. And craft receives daily, unglamorous labor. None of those lines require a tainted source. They can be defended by results, by ethics that honor persons, and by traditions with no contempt in them. You keep them because they work and because they leave you fit to help, not because they let you feel superior. If a practice seems to work but leaves you more scornful, it failed. Strength is not a license to despise. It is a responsibility to carry weight without dropping people. For others, no manipulation, no bait and switch, no ghosting where coordination has begun, no outsourcing of your insecurity onto targets. You persuade with reasons, not with pressure. You invite without penalty. You hold a zero-tolerance line on prejudice in your own speech and in the rooms you steward. If someone tries to smuggle bigotry in under the banner of free thought, you do not host it. Freedom of thought is not a right to use people for an audience while you just ask questions that demean draw the line, calmly and early. We will talk about willpower and vocation here. We will not rank human worth. Codifying is not enough. You need verification. Ask 3 honest critics to kick the tires. Tell them the themes you kept: discipline, candor, steadiness, and the sources that now ground them. Invite them to flag any residue of contempt in your language or selection. If they hear it, you clean it. Pride is the residue that takes longest to wash off. It loves to hide in sentences about high standards. The standard is high. The person across from you is still a person. Keep both truths in the same hand. Turn the code into habits and artifacts. Calendar the hours, build the checklist. Write the apology script you'll use when you miss. This step matters because bad communities sell posture, whereas good practice sells receipts. If you can show the page you wrote, the bug you fixed, the student you taught, the kindness you delivered under pressure, the code is real. If all you can show is a reading list and a scowl, you're still in the costume shop. Expect relapse pressure. On hard days, harsh prose will look like clarity again. That's when your code keeps you from making a new identity purchase. Read something clean and demanding instead. The craft notes of a builder, the field journal of a doctor, the diary of someone who bore suffering without turning cruel. Let those voices have more of your day than any polemicist's fragments. You are training a taste. Severity without spite, discipline without disdain, strength without a target. At the end, the test of your salvage is simple. Are you more exacting with yourself and more generous with others? Are you harder to bait and easier to trust? Do people feel clarified around you, not crushed? If the answer starts trending yes, your extraction worked. If not, stop the experiment. No technique is worth keeping if the cost is the quiet corrosion of your respect for persons. Set clear exit rules before you open a difficult book, because ambiguity is where contamination begins. Exit Rule 1. The moment a text's bigotry starts to feel edgy rather than ugly, you close it and take a long detour through writers who would rigor to respect. Your taste is your shield. Do not dull it. Exit Rule 2. If you catch yourself citing the author's name for aura, rather than citing a practice for merit, you're out. You are not building a persona. You are building a life. Exit Rule 3. If a community starts treating contempt as a sign of strength, disengage. You do not reform rooms that are invested in scorn. You leave them and invest elsewhere. Exit Rule 4. If curiosity shifts toward platforming, sharing screenshots, staging debates that echo harm, you shut the door. Intellectual responsibility includes not turning your feed into a vector. Carry 2 affirmative rules as well. Affirmative Rule 1. Always state the positive standard you are serving. Human dignity, moral equality, honest craft, promise-keeping. And hold every salvage candidate to that standard. That way, the principle leads and the text follows, not the reverse. Affirmative Rule 2. Relocate what you learned into a clean lineage. If focused work is worth keeping, cite the craftspeople, psychologists, and mentors who teach it without poison. If truth-telling helps, Put it under Kantian respect for persons, or under the ordinary decency of people you admire. You owe no loyalty to a source that disrespects your neighbors. Build your house with bricks that don't smoke. Now the conclusion that should govern your whole posture toward Otto Weininger or any problematic figure. You are responsible for what you amplify and for what you become in the act of learning. Reading critically is not a parlor game. It is moral training. If you can extract discipline without importing disdain, you prove a valuable point, that strength does not need an enemy, that clarity does not require cruelty, and that the hunger for spine can be fed without feeding hate. If you cannot, shut the book. The world is full of teachers who will take you just as far without charging your dignity as tuition. You live in an age where uncritical adoption of harmful ideologies is a few swipes away, where radicalization pipelines are optimized, A/B tested, and disguised as self-improvement. Your defense is method. State your standards. Run your protocol. Keep your notes. Refuse to be a node in a network that launders contempt as insight. When you encounter the severe, ask whether it builds responsibility or merely bends your mouth into a sneer. Only the former deserves hours that could have been spent building, serving, loving, or resting. The hook promised, learn from a fire without burning your house. Here is the checklist you carry out the door, not as bullets, but as convictions. Human dignity is non-negotiable. Strength that requires demeaning others is counterfeit. Salvageable practices stand on independent reasons. Bigotry is not content to pass. It is waste to discard. You owe clean rooms to the people you lead, love, and hire. You owe clean lineage to the practices that will raise your children. You owe yourself a mind that can walk past the baited hook without needing to prove sophistication by swallowing it. If you hold that line, you can profit from exposure without paying with your conscience. You can finish the audit, keep 2 or 3 useful tools, and toss the rest into the bin where it belongs. Then you can point younger readers away from the flames and toward the builders whose work will outlast every sneer. Learn, refuse, move on. That is how you use a problematic thinker without becoming one, and how you keep your own house standing when lesser architectures around you are built for heat, not for home.